Hello fellow Earthlings, it's Libs, and today I'm going to be doing my May reading wrap-up. So, I somehow managed to read 10 books in May, which impresses me immensely considering I've been reading like 6 or 7 books a month on average for the majority of the year, so I'm really excited that I managed to read 10. Some were really good, some were less good. Let's crack on into it. That's good. So the majority of books I read in May were reflective and informative. The vast majority were medium paced and the rest were slow. 70% were under 300 pages, which explains why I managed to read so many books. It split pretty evenly between fiction and non-fiction. My most read genres were literary and fantasy. My average rating was 3.83 stars, and I read 2,994 pages. So I think this month I'll start with the one book I didn't give a rating, and that was Down and Out in Paris and London, or London and Paris, I never remember, by George Orwell. This is his non-fiction book talking about the time he went through a rough patch with poverty. I appreciate what the book was trying to do, and it had some very interesting points, but it also kind of felt quite exploitative of some of the people that Orwell knew at the time. So he kind of talks about other people who are in very difficult situations without really critiquing it or really examining the structures that have put them in this position very much. And there are some people that are doing very, very bad things, but the fact that they're doing very, very bad things isn't acknowledged. It's just like a funny anecdote that this guy is super abusive, but it's a funny anecdote or just a weird anecdote. It's not critiqued, and I didn't enjoy that, and the book kind of lost me very early on because it didn't treat the people very well. So it wasn't my favorite. I can't rate it. It's just, it was there. I read it for the buzzword reading challenge. It's done. Probably not going to think about it again. There was one book I gave 2 stars to, and that was The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. This book I was meant to read for the April buzzword reading challenge, and it was so boring that it took ages for me to read it. This book is set in like Roman times, I think, and it's about this old married couple who live in this world where there's like this fog mist thing that seems to make people forget like just everything pretty much. No one can really remember things after they've happened. So they could be going, oh, we need to find this lost child, and then someone comes in and goes, oh, I saw a monster or something, and everyone forgets the lost child was ever lost. Or they'll forget people who have visited the village, or they'll forget things that they've done in the past. And you've got this old married couple who think they might remember having a son who they think left the village, and is waiting for them. They don't remember a thing about the son, but they are utterly convinced that they had a son and that he's in another village, and they think they probably can guess vaguely where the village is, and that the son is suddenly just waiting for them. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I don't know what was going on with the dialogue. The dialogue was so annoying and repetitive, and just there was nothing exciting to hold on to. I read it, but I don't even remember what happens in it, really. It was just so boring that I don't think my brain even took in the words towards the end. I just wanted to get the book done. Probably should have just DNF'd it, but I don't know. It wasn't a fun book, and I can't even think of any redeeming qualities to talk about other than, I guess, the concept of a mist that makes you forget things is interesting, but I don't know, it didn't do enough, and when everything's based on you remembering something you don't actually remember, I just assuming that it really bothered me that they assume the sun is waiting for them eagerly with no evidence to back that up. They don't know, they could have had a massive falling out with the sun and that he doesn't want to see them. They don't even know for sure they have a son. I'm going to stop talking about this book now. I have one 3.5 star book, and that is Ways of Seeing by John Berger. This is a non-fiction short little book about art and the ways of observing art and what is shown in art. I think it's a really, really good book for you if you are new to sort of academia and studying art or media or that kind of thing. It's good. I just don't think it's the most interesting take on all of that. It is an older book. I think it was first published in 1972. So it's not the most, it's good, but there are more updated things you could probably read if you want to learn about this stuff. But I mean, it's solid. It's solid. I just don't really have that much of an opinion about it. There are some beautifully written parts, but if you're interested, you can pick it up, but there are new things. There are different things to read. The majority of my books this month were not 6 stars. I have 6 books that are 4 stars. The first is The Australian Woman's Weekly Icons, Women of Hollywood, which is a coffee table book that I bought my mum for Mother's Day, but I had to read it before I gave it to her because then I thought I would never read it otherwise. This is a very solid picture book. It kind of goes through, you've got big sections about a lot of like the main Hollywood starlets, like you've got Liz Taylor, Sophia Loren, Audrey Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe, Katharine Hepburn. And then in between each kind of, I guess you call it chapter, there are pictures from different, like you've got pictures of all the comedians or the femme fatales or that kind of thing scattered throughout. So it's a really good coffee table book if you're interested in old Hollywood. I'm studying that at the moment, so it is great. It's really good for that. It's not the most like informative read, which is why it's not a 5 star, but I think if you've read the Icons like magazines or anything, then you kind of know what you're getting with this picture book. But it's good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Then I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This is written kind of like a letter of a man writing to his mother who can't read, she can't read English, and it's kind of exploring their relationship and generational trauma and all these things that the son could never say to his mother. And it is probably the most beautifully written book I've read this year. It is stunning, but it is quite painful. There's a lot of very tragic things that have happened, and it was not fun to read about all these tragic things, and it's not a book I could recommend to anyone. I think you have to be in the right sort of headspace for this book, and I'm not sure I was when I read it. So it's definitely beautifully written, that's why it's got 4 stars, but it's not bad by any means. It's just a lot of trauma to kind of go through, and it was a bit more, I guess, confronting than I was expecting from this book, but it's still a beautiful book, and if that's something you're interested in, then definitely read it. But if you're not sure about reading about all the trauma, then maybe it's not the time to read this book. Next was The Titan's Curse, which is the third book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. I'm slowly getting through this series. I never got to read Percy Jackson as a kid. That wasn't kind of the big series. It was Harry Potter and then Alex Rider. And Goosebumps were kind of the ones we all read. So I'm excited to be going through. I'm also happy to kind of be going in blind now. I watched the 2 terrible movies when they came out, so I kind of knew what was going on with the first 2 books, but so it was really exciting to get to a book where I didn't really know what was going on, what was going to be happening, and I really enjoyed it. That plot twist, I mean, I kind of suspected, but that confirmation made me very happy. So I really enjoyed that one immensely. Next book I read was Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Rift, which is one of the many graphic novels in the Avatar: The Last Airbender series. This one focuses more on Aang and Toph and their fundamentally different beliefs in how to approach the past, and it's a really good job at exploring their dynamic. But there's no Zuko in it, and do I really want to read a book set in this universe where there's no Zuko? The answer is no. So it got 4 stars for what is probably a petty reason, but think about it this way, The Search, which is mainly Zuko's book, I gave 5 stars to, so still petty, but I think that's just how I have to rate these particular books. Then I managed to read The Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. This book took me ages to read. It is so long. It's over 600 pages, and we all know I am scared of big books, but I listened to the audiobook, which made it a little bit more bearable. I say that like this was a bad book. It's not. It's a very good book. It's up for the Women's Prize for Fiction. I can understand why. I can definitely see what it has a lot to offer. It's about this pilot and... Okay, so this is a weird book to explain because you've got like 2 different timelines of things happening, completely different characters. So you have these 2 twins. Well, these twins. You have Marion and Jamie Graves, who were born at the start of the 20th century and have to grow up with their uncle. And Marion wants to become a pilot. And the book explores her life becoming a pilot, the trauma she goes through. It also explores a bit of her brother's situation. But it's also from the future where there's this film star who's trying to make, I guess, a comeback after her reputation was in tatters. She is playing Marion Graves in a film, and Marion Graves tried to fly across the globe, I can't remember how, like top to bottom and back or something. I don't remember exactly how she's going to do it, but she wanted to do it in a way that had never been done before. And she disappears somewhere, and they found her diary, and it's like a book based not on the diary but on someone else's novel about the diary. It's a bit all over the place, but she's doing a film about Marion Graves and wants to learn more about Marion. So there are so many themes and things going on here, and it's really good. It's kind of depressing. Look up trigger warnings. There's a lot of stuff going on in this book, and I just think I would have liked it more if it was a little bit shorter, just because there's so much going on. all the time. There's no break in the chaos that is happening, and it's good chaos. I enjoy the chaos. I just need a little bit of a break every now and then. And my final 4-star read was The Case for Courage by Kevin Rudd. We had an election in May, and I wanted to read this before the election. I'm curious to read the other books in this. I don't think it's necessarily a series. I think Monash University Press has released a lot of these really small non-fiction things where prolific people have written about politics and the environment and things like that. So I'm interested to read more. I just wanted to read this one first. And it is really good. It is weird that a book that's under 100 pages can feel so dense. I think that's my only real critique, is it's just information, 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 and it's hard to absorb it when it's just constant information. But it's very good. If you're interested, go for it, read it. And my one 5-star book for the month was Feminism is for Everybody by Bell Hooks. I cannot remember the YouTuber who got me on to Bell Hooks, but I am well and truly... I'm going to make a Jack Edwards style pun here and say I'm absolutely hooked on Bell Hooks. I'm disappointed in myself too, guys. This basically just goes over different aspects of feminist theory. It came out in, I think, 2000. So there are definitely a few bits that have aged in different ways. I wouldn't say they haven't aged well. It's just that we've explored the ideas of certain concepts a bit more and have a broader understanding of certain things. But that's not really her fault. So this book, I think, is a brilliant introductory text to feminist theory if you are interested in learning about it a little bit more. I just think she has a great way of breaking down different issues into really short chapters that you can really understand without being so bogged down in dense theory. It's just kind of a really good introduction that I think anyone, even if you've read other feminist texts, you might really appreciate this one particularly because it is so intertextual. And chef's kiss, really, really good. Would highly recommend to pretty much anyone. Okay, so that is it for this video. I'm actually going to be staying here for a while, so that means I'll have internet to upload videos every week again, which will be good. So I will see you guys next time. Let me know what you're reading in the month of June. Are we in June? We are in June now. That's scary. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.